this to include black education more broadly. Fugitivity has taken on heightened analytical significance in recent decades for the study of black politics and culture, and it can be understood as a contemporary idiom anchored by old knowledge from the black past. As I put closure on my research in the African American Studies Department at the University of California, Berkeley, I realized that to truly appreciate Carter G. Woodson or his iconic 1933 book, The Miseducation of the Negro, required a serious engagement with the veiled world of black education and black teachers, only partially visible to the white public of their time and the historical record left behind. The black teachers and students called on in this book became portals into a heritage of fugitive pedagogy. I hope to tell their story in a way that moves beyond mere description and narratives of heroic struggle, and instead tease out central conflicts pertaining to questions of black ontology and the deeper meaning of education in black people's struggle for human goodness and flourishing, for a new world to be and new ways to be in the world. As Toni Morrison showed through her fictional character, Sixo, a language is only worth speaking or writing or singing if you can see a future in it. I look to black teachers of the past, whose fugitive acts can teach us so much about the future. They represent a tradition that has been plundered from today's black educators, who are its rightful inheritors. I see the cast of characters in this book as standard bearers, a tradition passed through these teachers and their students. Their heritage is one worthy of both praise and deep study. How some of these slaves learned, in spite of opposition, makes a beautiful story. Knowing the value of learning as a means of escape, and having longing for it too, because it was forbidden, many slaves continued their education under adverse circumstances. Carter G. Woodson, The Negro in Our History, 1922. Introduction. Blackness and the Art of Teaching. But some of us would try to steal a little from the book and put the words together and learn by hook or crook. Learning to Read, 1853. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, teacher and abolitionist. Tessie McGee read to her class in a steady, measured tone, quietly engaging in a calculated act of subversion. She was black, 28 years old, and taught history in 1933 to 1934 at the only black secondary school in Webster Parish, Louisiana. The state's all-white Department of Education and local school board gave clear instructions. Teachers were to keep a pre-approved outline openly displayed on their desks, which they were to follow closely to acquaint their students with the targeted learning objectives. Black educators and families in Webster Parish had little formal control over curriculum, even though the school was paid for with funds raised by double taxing themselves, cultivating neighborhood patches of cotton that they handed over to local school officials. Despite being tax-paying citizens, blacks found state allocations of resources to be far less for their children's education as compared with white children's. On many occasions, McGee made what she deemed to be necessary revisions to the mandatory curriculum. Based on her own judgment, and perhaps at the recommendation of fellow black teachers, she often read passages from Carter G. Woodson's Book on the Negro, which rested comfortably in her lap. She kept the book out of sight, understanding the likely repercussions were she to be caught. Like most black educators, Miss McGee was a public employee and vulnerable to the disciplinary practices of Jim Crow authorities. But she was undeterred. She read to us from that book, one of McGee's students recounted. When the principal would come in, she would simply lift her eyes to the outline that resided on the desk and teach us from the outline. When the principal disappeared, her eyes went back to the book in her lap. The scenario from Miss McGee's classroom illuminates what this book calls fugitive pedagogy.